Okay, this is my vlog about borderline personality disorder, surviving a relationship with somebody who had quiet borderline personality disorder, as well as some other pretty intense things. And I'm doing this to help others who, specifically those who are in a romantic relationship, but probably other people too. And to give support. You're not insane, you're not crazy, and you don't deserve the abuse that you're going through. You haven't deserved it, and you're probably very confused and in a lot of pain. Go get some help for codependency, because you are a codependent if you're in an ongoing relationship with somebody who has borderline. And bottom line is, unless they're in some kind of targeted, qualified therapy and they're actively working towards their recovery, the relationship will never work. So you just get out. You don't owe them anything. They'll be that you staying or leaving will have no impact on their life. Trust me. You are not that important. You need to understand that. That's something that's you need to understand. You are not that important to them. They will discard you once you have stopped serving their needs. When the moment that they feel that you are not serving their needs and they can't think of how you can serve them, they will discard you instantly and coldly and cruelly, like you're a used paper towel. All right, so in this one I want to talk to you about the different facades that I experienced with the borderline that I was with. Now, I got this from when early in the relationship, after the initial idealization phase ended and the breakups were coming, the first breakups, and I started going crazy because I didn't understand what was happening. And I started having some suspicions that maybe she might be borderline, and so I wanted to find out, because I was finding out for myself, because I was going crazy. I didn't want to go crazy. And I wanted to understand the anxiety, that because I was catching her borderline, if you know what I mean. I was getting so insecure, and so my life was coming apart. My health, my work, my person. I mean, it was coming apart at the seams because I was actually catching her disease. So there was a video on YouTube from a borderline who was trying to explain to people what it's like, and he played these different facades about what happens, and he went through anger, and I don't remember what his facades were, but it went, oh my God, that makes sense. And he said, underneath what's going on is that there's this empty insecurity and fear, and you build these different facades that you interface with people. They're not multiple personalities. It hasn't gone that far, but it's similar to that. And they're ways of interfacing with people so that they can function and survive, and in some ways get from you what they need, which is an emotional high. They are succubi. They are using your emotional energy to fulfill their inability to create their own. So all of the loving and everything, it is real and honest, but it also has an agenda. And mine told me that. She said, and when I first met her, she said, I love being with a strong masculine presence, and I will do anything to make him happy. I will make him happy. I will cook him food. I will give him good sex. I will give him massages. I will treat him so good so that he's so happy that when I'm in his presence, I can feel and feed off of all of that happy masculine energy. Now, that sounds really great if you don't understand borderline personality disorder, but if you do, what that means is I am going to feed off of your emotional energy. So these different facades are ways that they are feeding off of your emotional energy. And the final facade, which is the cold, cruel breaker-upper, that is when those facades haven't worked and they no longer can get what they need from you, and they are afraid of you. They are deathly afraid of you, and they are pushing you out of their life. Now, that's the quiet borderline. I know other borderlines do different things, but it's very similar. So the facades, here are the facades that she did. She had a facade where she was the life of the party. Now, the life of the party was there was a social gathering, and she had volunteered to be the woman who orchestrates everything, and she brings the food to people. So she's bringing people food and being the life of the party to make them comfortable, because then when people, we had this thing called games night where she lived at this community, this spiritual community. And I'm realizing now that games night was about getting people playing games and having fun, so she could sit in the midst of it, soak up all of the fun, happy energy that was happening. So that was one facade. Now she would also do that with me, where she was making me food, and she was giving me massages, and she was, being really loving and giving me affection. That was the facade to get me to feel that good, powerful, masculine energy, so she could soak that up. In the hoovering phase, there was then there was another one. There was another one which I call the psychologist. Because borderlines are extremely intuitive, and their intuitive nature is a defense mechanism. They learned it when they were tiny infants so that they could predict what their parents were thinking and feeling, so that they could get what they needed or avoid the abuse. So it's not because they're spiritually gifted. It's actually an infantile, hyperinflated defense mechanism that they use throughout their life. That's why they're psychic. That's why they have magical thinking. That's why they rely on their intuition. It's because they don't have a sense of self to gauge anything, so they only go off of what feeling is going through them at the moment. So again, they're all about whatever the feelings are that are surrounding them. Now, so the psychologist would, if she wanted to really get an emotional high, she would get in with you, maybe make you feel good, maybe open you up and seduce you into feeling safe and loved and all that, and then she would go in and start analyzing you on a very deep level, and it was the most accurate psychological analysis I've ever experienced. So they could be amazing psychologists, but they're not doing it because they actually have awareness, like somebody who's worked through and has self-awareness and is sharing that so the other person can have self-awareness. What they're doing is they're going deep to have you have an emotional experience, whether that's crying about your dead mother, or whether it's happy about this, or feeling the connection to the gods. Whatever it is, it's to get you feeling. This is what she did, and you get all the intense, and then she would feed off of that. And then when you were finally super drained from that, then she would end it and walk away. But the psychologist would also come in when she was hoovering. When I was, when she was coming back, trying to suck me back into the relationship, and I was hurt and in pain and wanting to analyze, what she had done and what I had done, and she would be the psychologist at me. But if I was really focused on, hey, you did this, you did that, you really hurt me, then she would be the psychologist on herself. And she would bring up and look at herself, but it wasn't an honest awareness, because it never resulted in any continuous action. So I've come to realize that the psychologist is just a superficial facade. It's not real. She doesn't have any real awareness of herself. She's extremely unconscious of all of her true issues and motivations. But she can play that game really, really well. So again, they're very high functioning, they're very intelligent, and it's very easy to get, they talk a good game when they want to. It's not that they're lying, they probably believe everything they're saying, but it's not a real understanding. It's a very superficial, it's a facade. And she's even said to me numerous times that she knows she's got these other personalities that aren't really her. And when she's really honest, she'll say, I don't know who I am. I don't have an identity. I have all these different people that I act like. So that's the psychologist. And then there's the victim. This is probably the closest to her true state of being. And this is when she would get into very deep anxiety and depression. And then she would say things like, I feel like I'm going crazy, and she would act like a little baby, and she would want to be taken care of. And then I think those were the times that she was the most honest, if I'm being truthful. There were things that she said about me and about us that rang true. The problem is that it was such a state of weakness, and that's like her, the infant. The infant can't do anything. And so even though she was being honest about all of those things, she didn't have any power to do anything about it. And then there is the murderer. And that's the person who's coming to break up with you. That's the person who has decided that you are out to destroy them. They feel rejected or triggered or criticized, and they can't tolerate those feelings. In fact, I could have a look on my face, and she would say, "Don't have that look." And after a while, I said, "It's just a look. I'm having a feeling. It's okay. It's okay for me to have a look on my face. I'm thinking about what you're saying. You can't tell me how to look or feel." She finally stopped trying to control but at the very end, it was at the very end of the relationship, so it didn't matter. They can't tolerate any kind of rejection or criticism at all. So when they have decided that you are destroying them, usually because you've bonded very intensely and very intimately, which then gets them past all of the facade into what's really going on, which is this pure black hole of emptiness and misery, and they don't want to go there, so they decide you're the one that's making them feel that way, so they become the murderer, and they've thought it through, and they found the 2 or 3 things that you said or did that triggered them, and then they have this whole speech about why they're breaking up with you and why they can never talk to you again, and you can never this and you can never that. And this last time that she did this to me, she said, "I've got this speech prepared, I wrote it all out." And she went in, and afterwards, after listening to her, I didn't just sit there and say, okay, like she was hoping like somehow she's going to convince me of how the horrible things I've been. And, you're right, we shouldn't be together. Okay, bye. Of course, I was devastated, and I was hurt, and I was angry, and she's like, look, I was just hoping that we could have, that we could do this and it would be amicable. And I said, there's nothing amicable about what you're doing. You're being really cruel and mean, and I didn't deserve any of that, what you just said. I didn't do any of those things. I didn't think or feel any of those things. You're just afraid, and you're taking it out on me, and I'm not going to sit here, if you're going to destroy this, and tell you it's okay. I'm not going to give that to you. So, of course, she didn't like that. But those are the 4 things that I saw. So, your borderline may have different facades, but those were the ones that I had. She was the life of the party. She was the perfect angel, the perfect woman partner, the sex goddess. She was the psychologist. She was the really self-aware person, and then she was the murderer. The other ones, I don't know. There may have been others, but they're facades. The point is that you are not with a real person. I'm not saying that they're not human. I'm just saying that they emotionally and psychologically are not completely formed. And so the facades that you're dealing with are not true representations of people. They're only superficial representations. The truth is that they are very smart. All those things about them are qualities that they have. I'm not saying they're lies. They're real qualities that they have. It's just that underneath all of that, there is a chronic emptiness. And until they can find therapy to heal that chronic emptiness, you will never have a full, profound, deep, real connection. It will only be superficial, no matter how well presented it is. You will be hoovered in, and you will be taken in by the love that you get when it's good, and you will think you are with the entire person, and you're not. You're only with a facade. And that's why, if you have this feeling that there's never a feeling of fulfillment, no matter how good it gets, and that's why you feel so drained all the time, and that's why there's no closure. There's no resolution. Like in normal relationships, even when it's bad, you can break up, you can have closure. You will never have closure with a borderline because you were never with a real person. You were only with a facade. Okay, having said that, that's not going to be the case if they're getting therapy. So if you have borderline and you listen to this, go get therapy. Otherwise, you are causing so much damage to people. And you yourself are missing out on being happy and fulfilled. All right? So that's it. If you're in it and they're not in therapy, my suggestion is to get the hell out. Don't do what I did. The moment you realize they're borderline, get out. You can't help them. Kindest thing you can say is, get therapy. After you've been in therapy for 6 months, give me a call. That's the kindest and most constructive thing you can ever say to me. Okay? That's it. I think I've got it all out of my system, and I've done this for me so that I can recover. Because holy crap, this has been the worst, most toxic, destructive, chaotic, hurtful. I mean, she has uprooted and destroyed my life. I won't even talk about it in other videos, but I mean it. My entire life has been completely uprooted and almost completely destroyed. And wow. Okay, that's it.